dude, I've been to like 25 different schools. And he was like, nope, no, you haven't. And I was like, okay. So I had to list all the places that I had been to these different schools in, which is great because it's a lot of different situations. It's a lot of different opportunities to figure out how you respond.
Yeah.
And it's probably one of the things I'm most grateful for because of what we do, the way that we travel and the way that we're out connecting in all these different places of the world. So from a very young age, it was, what are you going to be like in every situation? So I had to know who I was in all these different times and places and moments. And that's a trend that actually continued into young adulthood for me. Well, until I met you, actually.
Which is a really lucky thing because I'm sure that once you're thrust into those situations, you have that choice to be able to recognize what your core values are, the different types of aspects about yourself that you love. You get to take a really good look at the beliefs that you have, the different uh, things within yourself that are holding you back from what it is that you truly want to be and the ideals. Because when you're put in those different types of situations, I think, as Josh has said, in schools, you get to find out all the different things and the people that are around you. Like, are they pulling me out of who I am and what I want to be by them being the influence around them? And I think that's a really great example for that. I mean, we're around people all the time.
Well, we are, and we're in those moments. We feel pressures of ourselves communicating from other times and places. We feel the pressures of what's happened. And then we get a chance to show certain pieces of ourselves.
For sure.
And as a whole, the world is becoming a more intuitive understanding. Like we've always been intuitive as people, but when we're understanding more how our cells communicate, we understand the power that we possess inside of our own thought process, inside of our own connection to intuition. In the last week, I've heard the word intuition used in a sentence as just commonplace communication. That's a very intuitive way to talk, and people talking about in all these different careers trying to be more intuitive in their thought process. And I was like, wow, that's very cool. 1995, when we started it with mom, intuitive was one of those words in our area that was not such a popular word. And here it is, just talked about like something people want to develop within themselves.
It's definitely become more mainstream, especially on TV shows these days. It seems like everything that, even from social media all the way to TV, that everything's being used with that word exactly, and it's very well accepted. Thank goodness. I'm so glad that intuition is something that you can actually just talk about so easily and not have to be so taboo anymore.
Well, and we start even now, like we connect here in this setting, and some of your cameras are on, some of your cameras are off, and it's great because we can see the way you type your name, the way you share different things. We can see your pictures, and it gives us an idea or a perception, a quick feeling of different pieces of energy, right? Some we know for a really long time. See, our translators that we've spent a lot of class time with, and our host that
Mhm.
we've known from different classes and been with on different journeys. So it's they know a little bit more in depth some of the things that they've watched us do, right?
Sure.
And they've developed their own idea of who we are as people, which is great. Don't get us wrong. But within that expectation, like some of the first moments from when we met to the second one, our cells could pick up on kind of what they knew from the first meeting, what they were counting on, the things that resonated well with them, the things that they expected from the moment. And this has been true since, well, my whole life. 40-year internship, being mom's kid. Oh, you're Vianda's son. This is instant expectation, right? Instant cellular communication of this is what I'm expecting you to be. And in our life, our journey of self-discovery, we're surrounded by lots of people who put on, this is what I expect you to be. This is what I expect you to be. This is kind of what I need in my life. And you would be amazed at how many times we let that pressure really kind of give us
And dictate to us.
a situation or an identity in the moment, from school, from friendships.
To family, like parents who have seen you grow and continue to grow, but not really letting you grow because they want to hold you in a place where they've known you as even an adult. This place is my place that I need you because you've been here. Yeah, I agree.
So I think when we say journey to self-discovery, there's two different parts. There's being able to stay on self-discovery and know that you're a creation energy that can change in any moment, and what you're changing and growing and guiding yourself to become. And there's discovering everything about who you are to resonate in this world. And I think when you dive into how to do this as a whole, you have to start with the most difficult communication in the world to be honest with, which is actually yourself. It's very difficult to be honest with yourself.
And to yourself, I think that sometimes when you go look at some of the things that you may have done in your past that you may not be the most happy about or proud of, some of those things have made you who you are today. And sometimes it's not easy to reflect on the past things that you may not be happy with and recognize that. And I think that that can be kind of daunting at first to be able to throw that out there and be like, this is who I am. This is what made me me. And I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I think we tend to get really harsh.
Yeah.
We get really harsh with each other.
We do.
With ourselves. Yeah.
Especially with ourselves.
Yeah.
I mean, I recognize that I definitely have done that with myself. When others didn't even judge me nearly as harsh as I was on my own self for some of the silly things that I've done or the choices that I've made that have brought me to this place today. And that self-discovery that we have within ourselves really does come from all of those things that we've done in the past to today. They are that series of things, and knowing that the ideal life or whatever it is that you see within your head can be what you want, but recognizing those things have to come within you, and loving that inner self and that inner beauty that you have from all of those steps and from all those choices that you've made, from those perspectives, and with what the knowledge that you knew.
Yeah, I think as we gain that understanding and we feel those things, then we can take the pressures of those moments and we see why we're responding to them. There's a reason why that it works. Most of the time, it works not just from their cells, but from our cells too. And as I mentioned at the very beginning, moving a lot, all these different situations, I ended up and with a lot of chance for self reflection, self connection, lots of situations to discover who I was as a person, but in lots of different avenues where it wouldn't seem that way. Right. And you had the same thing happen in your life. You've had moments where you've had a chance to take a look and see what's going on. And when we get, as we're designed to be connected, our cells are reaching out to communicate with the world around us and to find different levels of soulmates, even our divine life partner or our soul families. We're calling out, we're connecting, we're reaching to build a group to grow in that understanding of what we are, which is we're a very connected. They would call it herd mentality of ourselves in terms of humans. We like to be near other people like us. We like to understand and grow, and that is its own pressure in your self discovery. So while you're journaling, who am I going to be? There's also, where do I fit in? Like, how do I contribute? What do I do?
But also understanding that within that, it's allowing that the opinions of other people don't mold you so that you can have that acceptance within yourself, but not outside of yourself. Understanding that self-discovery, I think, allows you to look within, connect with your higher self, and be able to really become one and see that all the different things within yourself and be like, yeah, this is me. I accept myself so that other people can accept you outside of you. I think that really it all comes within.
Yeah. And then as you make that journey to discovery and you have that self-importance and know how much you bring and what tools you have to a situation, then you have, and we watch other people start to go through their things and we see similarities. And there's a trait that tends to happen in our lives and in our journeys where for us to feel like what we've gone through is important
Mm-hmm.
or that we did something right, mostly it's that we did something right, that we figured it out, that we understood how to do something. We take a situation and we go, oh, I know the answer to that situation. I've been through that situation. Here's the answer. Right? And when I was first starting to learn how to teach theta healing, I thought, okay, that's what we're doing is we're teaching people that we know the answer for their life. But we're not. We're teaching people how to go find their own answer for their life. So there's some success when people come in and sit down for a reading and you give them the answers to certain questions that they want or already know the answer to. They'll come in and sit down and say, I want to leave my or they won't say I want to leave my relationship, but they'll be like, I feel like another thing is coming in my life. Is my soulmate around the corner? You go up and you'll scan and you'll see they're in a relationship. You'll see that they're longing for some different things, right? So being an intuitive is a really easy thing because the things that are most powerful thoughts in people's cells are the ones that they're asking the questions about. 4 trillion pieces of information, and there's like four complete thoughts that they're putting up in those moments. For ourself, it's easy to train and pick up, oh, okay, these are the 4 things they're really focusing their energy on.
Right, because it's the forethought thing that they are actually thinking about. If they're constantly thinking, I need somebody new, I need somebody new, then we're going to pick up on that as intuitives, right? We know.
So when I was doing and discovering this with my mom when I was younger, I would get in trouble for not doing certain things. It doesn't mean I wouldn't have thought certain things. It doesn't mean I wouldn't have gone through the teenage moment and been like, okay, I think maybe this is what I'm supposed to do in my teenage development. My mom would be like, are you doing this? No. Well, you're in trouble. I know, you're like,
Well, get in trouble beforehand.
Yeah. But was it really beforehand? Like, because my cells were communicating it. I was already on the path to creating it. There's a whole entire conversations about when we start to do things, when we create things in our life. And the big journey that we start to make when we discover ourselves is we sit back and go, where is a person on their journey? Basic class, basic practitioner class we go to, and where are they at on their journey there? They have some intuitive tools, but they're discovering some of what their cells have been creating in their life, just a little bit. Some of how they've hid certain abilities that their cells have intuitively to connect and promote healing. Some of the things that they started to create. And that's heavy. I mean, it's a little bit heavy when you sit down and you have this conversation and figure out that you are creating certain things and you can connect with an energy and create more things. As joyful as it is, there's a heaviness to that understanding, right?
Well, heavy meaning it can be, pretty daunting when you find out you are the one that is doing everything for you. You're in control of all of the aspects of your life. You're in control of all of the things that allow you to go, move, change, all these beliefs, all these different things about yourself, your habits, your behaviors. You're in control of them.
But we're like, we're delivering this piece of information and opening up tools that have always been there. We're strengthening them like muscles. Like you're learning to walk the first few times. You're learning to see and connect more with higher vibrational planes to understand energy, right? And as you walk your students through this at a practitioner level, they're opening up that tool and they're going, wow, what am I going to do with it? And go back to when you're learning baby steps, go back to when you're learning to breathe. Your muscles, your cells remember the emotions. They remember the things that they're creating it with, and they start to develop and solve things. They solve the patterns, right? So within that kind of journey of self-discovery, it's how have we been discovering it? Was it a huge amount of pressure? Was it a little amount of pressure? Was it overwhelming? And we start to really take a look at how our cells, how our physical self has learned to connect in this world. And those things, as they come up and we connect in all these situations, we go back to all these different pressures that have moved us. And even if we recognize a pressure, like somebody wrote in the thing, a pressure that they recognized about feeling like, people don't want to maybe lose you, and they want to have a level of control. When we look at that, we know that then becomes a two-sided thing. Yeah, maybe their energy is used to you being in a certain place, but also what's going to happen to your energy if it doesn't know them the same way? So if someone doesn't learn something the same way you do, we go back to how we're learning things and how sometimes we just kind of want the way we did it to be the right way. If they don't learn it the same way at a practitioner level in your life, or see the world the same way as you, we start to feel like wrong, or we start to feel
like maybe we could be an outcast, or that we're totally different or separate from the herd mentality, and you may not be as accepted.
the hardest thing for me to do was to be me in teaching. I say this all the time. It was the most difficult thing to do.
Yes.
The very first sentence that was ever stated to me about teaching, 18 years old, you're going to go teach, which is very cool. The more I look back and think about it, I'm like, hey, cool, my mom trusts me with that at 18. I look around at 18-year-olds and I'm like, wow, thank you.
we have it. We have 18-year-olds. We have older children than 18, and we're like, wow. No.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not going to argue. There are some 18-year-olds that I see and go, I'm definitely not letting you teach a class to people yet. You're not there yet. You will be someday. So my mom said that, but I didn't hear that. I didn't hear like, I have this understanding of who you are as a person and I trust you. What I heard was, you're Vienna's son. Don't go mess this up. And so this fear kind of creeps in immediately, right? Boom, there it is. Don't mess this up. Don't mess this up. Don't mess this up. And it's already something I had in my cells. Like, you have an opportunity, don't mess it up. And that's making me, in my life, as I look back, it was making me miss all these opportunities or not mess them up. Like, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't radiate yourself. And when you have these chances, like chances right now, to take a look and see what's going on in someone's life and see how the day's going, you connect, you feel an understanding of what you bring to the moment, but you have to see if you're in your comfort zone for a reason, if it's your cells recreating certain patterns, and then what you feel from that pressure. And having knowledge makes it so that when we look back, we go, well, I should have done this differently. And having knowledge, when I look back, I can go, well, this is what my mother was putting into in the moment. This is what she was saying. And this is probably more what she meant, right? She didn't mean go do this. She meant just teach in this vibration of unconditional love and love people and see what they're creating in their life. Like, come to their connection, come to their world, and show them love and show them opportunity and show them the things that we do.
All while discovering who you are.
Yeah, and she had done that so well inside our family. Like I would come home and there would be all kinds of new people in the house. There's still to this day, we will come back and there will be some new person at the office or around
Yes.
for a meeting, and she'll go, I want you to meet this person. I think you would like this person. She's always, always, no matter where she is in the world, coming and connecting and going, you're a very loved person. Our paths cross for a reason. What reason is that? How do we make it better? And in my cells and my journey of self-discovery, I took that motivation on her stuff and everything else, and I turned it into the way I'd been used to understanding things, the way I'd been used to hearing other things from another line in my genetics and my ancestors and some of the things I developed myself. And instead of embracing it right away, I created with that. Now, fortunately, I found out pretty quick that I was creating with that. I found out, if you fear something and you put a lot of energy into it, means you're calling it forward really, really fast. And even though it's a lower vibrational thing, some of these lower vibrational energies we use so much in our world that we've learned how to create with them. Not so good.
No.
But we've learned how to create with them. They don't resonate well in our body. They cause all kinds of problems. They don't really resonate well long term. But if you conquer them and know how to navigate those energies through other people without being affected by it, you can have a lot of success. So on that little journey of kind of knowing yourself and seeing those pressures, I would always, yeah, Mom, I'm going to figure it out. Or yeah, Mom, I got you. I'm going to do this. When we look at what we're creating, when we see what's going on in our day-to-day life, then we have to look at the how. Like, how are we creating it? What are we leaving behind in the moment? Kiki is with us.
Hi, Kiki.
Hi, Kiki. And this is very, very, very cool. First time we go to Japan, we get to meet Kiki's husband, who was in class, and we get to meet Kiki. Never met these people before in our entire life, but we did get to go to dinner with them, and they took such great care of us.
Yes.
At this wonderful dinner, and asked really great questions, as people often do. And they continue to spoil us. Raena keeps getting wonderful little sashes and kimonos,
yes,
and all kinds of things. And I made the comment about a kimono myself, and the next day I had one. I mean, they were super, super sweet. It was very early when it was like our second instructor seminar. And they were just so kind and sweet. They were very thoughtless, giving caringness to what they brought.
Yeah.
And continue to bring.
Very thoughtful.
In that moment, it was the very beginning of our kind of teaching instructor classes. And it was going from having taught practitioner classes and staying in the background, and Mom comes in one day and says, "Hey, now we're going back to, you guys are going to do it like this." And we stopped arguing a long time ago with intuitive Mom. She called 3 days ago and said, "I need you to do this, and I need you to do it in 2 days." And she said, she's gotten very good at this. She said, "I know I don't give you much time, but I always tell you how much time I have when I get the answer." So she said, "You have 3 days to do this. I'm sorry." It was a very great new conversation, because usually she just said, "This is the information, fix it." And now she said, "Now you have 3 days. I'm sorry, I would have given you more."
It's great.
So Mom puts us in that situation, and here we are, we're out learning, we're out building an understanding, and we're coming from not being very connected. We were very quiet in the theta healing world. We were very support in the theta healing world. And then mom was like, oh, hey, you're out teaching instructor classes now. And that's just the way it is. Again, came from the seventh plane. So this is how we're doing it. So we were very nervous. We were very much trying to figure out different things. And the fact that in meeting these people and having that energy and having, it wasn't just about the gifts, it was about a sincerity that they both carry in their hearts. If you ever get a chance to meet them, they're great, caring people, very great, caring people. Some of the coolest little posts about how they enjoy life. Yeah. Don't get to comment on much posts, but I do get to see them sometimes. And that sincerity was really well felt. It helped change our lives, but it does that in every moment. Like right now, when we say you guys have your names and what you're doing, Renata with her library background, and Fendi laying there listening to us, and Evelyn, which is very cool that in some of these different places you choose your English name and you type it, there's a story behind it. Well, knowing that, like we kind of go, hey, cool, what's the story? Like, did you just pick it? Did you just write it? Did you just give a straight translation? But even if your camera's not on, it says your name and it has a picture, we get to feel your energy. We get to see a little bit of who you are. And that way back to that first moment we were instructors, we got to see that energy and we're like, oh, this is very cool. You know, they were very open, they're very sharing of who they are. And it's very much who they are as people. Seeing that and knowing that lets us go, well, what are we going to do with the energy that we're creating? We take a look inside of ourselves. What's stopping us from reaching certain moments? And it's something we still do every day. You know, when we sit down for our morning, we wake up, we take a look at things in our evening. Yesterday, while driving, we have conversations about what are we creating and how are we creating it. It's just how we want our energy to be created. Are we being felt in all situations the way that we want to? And if we're not, what's stopping us from doing so? You know, if there's a simple solution of picking up a phone and changing the dynamic by being able to communicate better, what's stopping us from doing it? Or if there's a way for us to interact and connect better with people, whether it's saying a name, whether it's smiling or sending an extra heart, we're evolving, we're learning, we're communicating. What kind of energy do we want to do it with? And how do we do it? So as we kind of dive into how we're doing it, there's a whole bunch of things that you can take a look at inside of yourself as good markers to see how things are going. You have a great little list.
Discover yourself.
Yeah, I look down and see this great little list, and I'm trying to set it up. I'm like, Raina's got this great little list. I just see her scroll down. She's got lists.
I always have lists. You know, if I'm awake enough, when I know I have to be up at a certain time, you bet. then I actually write lists. But this time I wrote one. But I know that Sanaya has questions, so this is always a great time.
Wait, the list. You've got the list.
I'll come back to another list.
No, you got to share the list. These are good things for you to look at. You got to share the list.
What do you want me to share?
This whole little list. That list is amazing. Okay. That is a great little list that
I'll
you can share.
I'll share the list. Basically, when you know yourself and you're able to understand that self-discovery within yourself, you get to have that confidence that you love about yourself. We want to know the list. Gotcha. Okay. So you no longer are seeking approval outside of yourself. I already said this stuff, and a lot of these things I already covered. I just like to make lists because then I can actually cover these points. You get to connect to your higher self. Again, something I already said. You're able to have and accept yourself with grace and forgiveness. I find that when you get a chance to actually be more forgiving of yourself and forgiving of others, you get to not only dive deep into those things that you don't really recognize within your past, but you get to feel so freeing. And it's like almost like relaxing and letting all those things go, because you no longer are holding those things in those place because you have forgiveness. And forgiving yourself is almost one of those harder things than it is for forgiving the people around you that have hurt you, because recognizing the things that are holding you in those places kind of makes it more challenging, because you're like, I did this to myself. Do I really want to forgive myself? You know, you can kind of beat yourself up sometimes. That's where that peace of mind comes in. You no longer are sitting on that autopilot. You know how we often just sit there and we're constantly going about our day, but we always have that subconscious things going on that we're just going on autopilot all the time. We talk about this constantly. Autopilot is that thing that we're always doing. Yes. Go ahead. I know you have something to say. Go for it.
I'm looking
Go.
at your list, and she's flowing through it so well. And I know that like you are such a list person that you probably take a good look at it and go, wait, am I doing these things? Am I going through these things?
Sure.
Because she's got a wonderful structure to her brain. I'm very Gemini.
And I'm very
I embrace
Capricorn.
it. I embrace it entirely. I'm very much can flip things into different moments, and I'm very bendable.
Yes.
So I see this great list, and as she's going through it, I know that she takes a look at these situations that she's on in life, and she sees if she's doing these things.
Yeah, well, I wrote the list, so yeah, you bet. You just
So I have this image of you just literally like going, wait a minute, am I really examining myself here in a good way or a bad
I
way?
examine myself and I go, how was it that I had self-discovery? And I just start writing some things like, okay, and then I say, well, what are the things that I could work on better, or what are the things that I could, input into this that I could actually say that, hey, this could be a journey into that self-discovery, like like the autopilot, but self-examining the process, it makes it easier. Like when you're able to have that self-examination, as you just were saying, being able to write those lists, for me, that makes it really easy. For Josh, that's not something he wants to do. He's not going to go sit down and write a list. I can promise you, he's never going to write a list ever. But in his mind, he'll have a list of what it is. That he'll tell me, and I'll write a list.
I do write a lot of lists in my mind. I do, yes, a lot in my mind.
I think when you have a chance to really delve deep into yourself and you understand yourself a little bit more, you're also not only aware of those things within yourself, but you're aware of the people around you. Like you understand them better, you can recognize the things that are going on with them, and you can see the things that they need within themselves, so that you can pick up on anything that they may need intuitively, that they need for the day, like the smile, the hug, those types of things. I think that because you're so confident and you recognize the things that you need, you recognize when it's their stuff and when it's your stuff. And that makes that empowerment of knowing when you need to change things that much easier, because you're empowered. You know who you are. And if you want to change anything at any point in time, you can. That's what the best tools we have with ThetaHealing are. You can use those at any point in time. You go, yeah, I don't like this about myself. We're changing this. And I write a list. And I change it. Just kidding. And then when you want to design your own ideal life, you can change it to be whatever you want, because it's yours. You get to do whatever it is you want with your life. There was the part of the list that you wanted to share.
I like the whole list. It's a great list.
It's a great list.
Because the way that you delivered it was so fluid, but I know it's like a checklist. It's like
It is.
of things that you do, and we do very similar things. We're always building patterns, and one way to build patterns is the checklist, is to know, like, am I doing it like this? And after a little while, the checklist becomes a very fast process. You know, it becomes first time you do it, it's a slow, like, check,
Yes.
and faster and faster and faster. That's the way things work in ourselves as we develop muscle memory, which is just a fast way of telling our cells know how to create something so quickly that it's built the signals to make it so fast in our life.
It's become so much more fluid.
And when you understand how our cells stack and build to recreate and create things quickly for our benefit, we know how deep we are inside of our own subconscious at setting up those same patterns that we think are making pressures of life easier. Like, we don't understand all the time how much difficulty we cause by making things more complicated sometimes, you know? It's not to say get rid of the complication, it's to say find where you're happy with it. Some people like complicated, some people like simple. Some people like lists written out, some people like lists in their brain. You know, as that journey to self-discovery is really kind of knowing who you are in every moment and then asking the question, am I being pulled away from who I am, or can I stay true in this moment?
Exactly.
And if you are fighting to stay true in the moment, it's a battle to stay true in the moment, then there's some reason inside of yourselves for the battle, for the argument, for everything that's going on. You know, we joke about picking out the most successful people in a room. We're around lots of people in other avenues, even in this avenues, where we're out and about networking and understanding people every day, right? They'll come up and there's an understanding or an energy about a successful person versus a non-successful person. The more successful people in the world, the more comfortable they are at being themselves.
Sure.
So you want to you walk into a boardroom, and this is true. If you walked into like a corporate boardroom, because we all can vision a corporate boardroom. It's a mindset. It's a social thing that we've passed down for. When you walk into a corporate boardroom, you always know who's in charge. Always. Because the person in charge is the one person doing whatever he wants. He's wearing whatever tie he wants. He doesn't even necessarily have to wear a tie. He's doing what he wants. And everybody else is trying to figure out how to gain the acceptance of someone else or something else to get to that level. But the level they're trying to get is not like, I want to be over you. They think it is. It's freedom of expression. It's freedom to know who they are in that moment. And what that person's mastered is they know who they are and how to make that work for them. It's the same thing with athletes. It's the same thing with actors. It's the same thing with healers. It's the same thing with any type of successful people that we look at from the outside. When they find real success, you feel real authenticity. You know, you feel kind of who they are and what they do. And we go and get to see a snapshot of them, and they take all this pressure and they don't really buckle to it. Or they do, and then later they tell you they did. They had to make some changes, or it was hard and they went through a step in the process. These are the types of things where we journey into self-discovery. We can unlock at any level, and it actually makes it so that things happen. Our body is so smart. And when we tell ourselves in our body, if I just had this, everything would be different, we're actually putting out that everything is going to be different in a program where our body's used to knowing exactly how to solve things and knowing exactly what to do. So if your manifestation every day when you wake up is, I just want something different, for instance, I'm ready for a change, your body's going to be like, the subconscious you, all your energy is going to be like, wait a minute, how different are we talking? I mean, seriously, how different are we talking? Are we talking a little bit different? Because a little bit different I can handle. A little bit different is what we go through when we go to a new place. A little bit different is what happens when we meet new people. But if we're talking different entirely, and I don't know the solutions, I don't want that. You know, your subconscious is smart enough to know how to build for you for success and to know how to tackle certain problems. But a big change could be lots of problems. And it doesn't have to be a big change. So really discovering yourself, seeing how you solve problems, knowing what you do, and then using it, it lets you tell yourself, lets you tell the world around you what you're really trying to create. I mean, that was one thing that I manifested from the time I was younger. Please, just let me have a chance to change things. I know things could change for our family. I just give me a chance. Just give me a chance to really be and shine as a cool person. You know? And it was in school. It was some moment. Just give me a moment, and I would walk past moments where I could do good things. And other moments, as I was growing up, I'd open up doors and be successful, and then my cells were more programmed to go, just give me a chance, just give me a chance. That I never saw the chance. I never saw the opportunity. I never saw the things that were going on. I was more used to solving the problem by saying, well, just give me one. And my dad, biological father, had the same thing. If I just had, for him, it was if I just had this, I'll be happy. If I could just stay home from work and not have to go to work and play video games all day, I'll be happy. If I just had that, when he gets an accident, he's at home all day, he can play video games, he's not happy. Because the cells doesn't realize what he created, they realize the pattern that he knows. And then it was another pattern of, I just need XYZ amount to get through this week. I just need $200 to get through this week. I just need $300 to get through this week. I just need $500 to get through this week. And it developed a pattern of reaching out to all these different people around him and figuring out how to get what his needs was met for the week, because that's all he needed. I just need this. I just need this. Just need this. So he could talk to anybody and meet those needs, but he couldn't get past those needs or build something different. And the mindset was, please just help me. Instead of recognizing that whatever was in his cells and however he communicated was opening up doors of possibilities, why don't you create something? He'd learn to keep those relationships in that same place and depend on them to give him that same thing. Which over time, they knew what he was going to ask, right? They knew he's going to call and ask for this. Do I even want to answer the phone? But why did people not want to answer the phone then? Because they knew that once they talked to him, they would want to give it to him. His energy was so powerful that whatever he said, they were going to feel it in their life. So they were trying to avoid it. And then he was still figuring out ways to solve it in other different avenues. And that's the type of creation that grew and grew and grew and grew. So in my cells, when I was saying that, I had certain genetic patterns that he possessed and certain ways that he solved problems when I was younger that I had seen, and wondering, how do I solve it? Do I solve it the same way? It's a good tool. It worked for him. Is it going to work for me? Our journey from self-discovery is, which parts of this do we want to keep and which parts really resonate? They really resonate within your truth about who you are. And in our world, we can show those things. We can give those things. Some of our expressionism isn't the same in different places of our world, but our energy can still connect and be authentic. We can still radiate who you are in a moment. It doesn't have to be something that we let out all the regret and frustration from all these times past. It can be something that we move and show from our hearts.
All right, Sanaya. That was the look.
The look.
The look.
I have been having so many realizations as you're speaking. And I just wanted to thank you for everything you've been saying, because again, we really need to hear it to be reminded. I'm really happy that we're all here with you. Now, the first question is, teacher, how can I find my job direction? I'm very confused and anxious.
That's a great question. If you're looking for your job direction, the first thing you need to know is what you love to do. I mean, we live in a great time. This is a great world.
There's so many resources at your fingertips at any point in time.
In all these different places, we have people who dance and people who talk. Talking is an actual way that we contribute to our world, right? Sitting down and having a podcast or a radio show where people just talk about their own journey
and likes,
and they do it
dislikes.
every day. They commit to doing it every day, and once they find what their heart wants, and people can feel what their heart wants, it reaches out and they find people that need to hear what they're saying, that need to feel that vibration. So the most important thing to do for you to find your job and your direction is to find your heart. Find out what you love to do. You know, if you love to be at the beach and take care of sea turtles, there's a job for you in Hawaii, actually, where you can sit at the beach and watch the sea turtles and protect them all day long.
That is actually a job. We watched somebody just yesterday do that exact job.
They have volunteers and they have paid positions.
Yes.
And some of the volunteers made it like their Instagram page to like live stream some of the turtles and make money from just volunteering. They make a good living.
To find what it is that you love.
And then take a look at if you can have that. So from a belief work standpoint in your life, can I have this? Is it okay to have this? Because we have generations and generations before us where you did what you were told to do for a career. This is what you're going to be. This is what my father was. This is what my father's father was. And that means this is what you have to be. You know, my grandfather worked as a forest ranger his entire early career. Most of his life, actually. He was a forest ranger. He was outside taking care of the forest, and he got to make sure the trees were protected and nature was protected. It was everything he ever wanted to do, ever. And then he was presented with his dream of going to Alaska. Always his dream. I want to be in Alaska. He gets presented with his dream of going to Alaska. And at the same time, his daughter wants to go to a school, but it's kind of a prestigious school. And if he moves out of state, she has to do a whole bunch of different things to get into the school. But if she lives there, it's an automatic thing. You get to come to school. So he's like, oh, I can't go to Alaska, guys. His job's like, well, you can't go to Alaska. What are we going to do? Well, we were going to have to retire, and we have someone else who's taken this job because we've already filled it. So he retired at a younger age. He got a nice little retirement package, got to stay in an area, and then he became a painter. Didn't become a painter because he wanted to paint. He became a painter because he knew he could make a little extra and keep the money that he wanted to help his daughter in school, and his body resented everything about that decision. And so instead of having a conversation and sitting down and saying, how do we accomplish both? How do we get to both? How do we do this? What's going on? He took it upon himself to solve the problem, took it upon himself to take things. And it ended up making him very ill. And it shifted his life, all because what he loved to do, he was no longer doing. And he still could have done it. He could have done, somebody could have sat down and they could have had a conversation. It could have been like, well, why don't we just do guided tours? You know, there are people who come from all over the world that want to go deep into these different wilderness things that you know so much about. But his mind was so, oh no, I have to give it up. I have to give it up to prove what I love. I have to give it up to sacrifice. It was an inherited pattern. I have to give up something. I have to suffer through something. So belief work wise, to figure out what you want to do and then figure out what's holding you back from being able to be successful in that. Why can't you be successful at being who you are and have that be appreciated energetically? Yeah, I could keep going. Raina's squeezing my hand. She's like, you answered the question. It's time for another question. Stop. Stop.
No. I'm saying stop. I'm just saying. There's more than one.
The next question is for Raena, actually. Two students want to know, what is Raina's sun sign? What is the zodiac of Raena?
I'm a Capricorn with the Sagittarius rising.
Okay. Next question is from Lika. I find myself living more and more closed. For example, I will not go out for a few days without seeing anyone or speaking, without promoting or providing healing services. Although I have some ideas, I have never done so. I haven't done theta healing to myself for a long time. How should I deal with this problem?
That is a very great question. Because I mean, the seventh plane answer is, whoa, I mean, really, what do you want to do? How do you want to deal with this problem? Is this something that you want to investigate and solve, my guess would be you are finding a lot of joy in having that level of control in your journey. Not really my guess. My answer and in connection would be you're having a lot of control of things in your life from being able to find that. And anytime that you're stepping outside of that space, that control is being moved or pushed by other cells. So you've probably actually discovered a great set of beliefs that have existed in your cells for a little while. You get pushed around by other energy and you don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
So problem solving is simple. If I don't go out, I don't get pushed around. You know, and if I get a chance to spend more time with myself here, networking and having success, yes, you need it. You can feel the pressure around it and how much easier it might make certain things. It might make your life a little easier to have some more abundance. But your supercomputer knows it's probably not worth the pressure of feeling pushed around by the energies that you go out with. So the first thing we would do, and we'll download it for all of you, is to download that you know what it feels like to know your value being upheld in every moment by the universe around you, and in being able to have that energy held outside of space that is only defined as yours.
If you'd like that download, say yes. Awesome. That's a good one.
And the second thing to do is not just figure out why belief work wise your cells go with that pattern and feel that pressure, but ask yourself what you actually gaining and bringing into that particular moment and what you bring. You bring something. Like in all these moments that you know you feel to go out there, there's a call from the universe that your presence can affect change and help a person. Okay, it's not a coincidence that we feel like it's time to go to the store when it's time to go to the store. It's not a coincidence that our energy all of a sudden goes, you know what? I want to go to the store. Maybe we're hungry. Maybe
We want some clothing.
we want some clothing. All these things pop in and we feel it from a very real level of ourselves. But the universe knows how to integrate very well. So it's no coincidence that you're communicating and talking about how you want to create, and then you have an idea to go somewhere, because then you meet the different energies that are calling to feel you on your journey while you're creating, and vice versa. The energies that you're calling you meet. So when you go out there, see what you bring. That's great. And it's something. It's going to be something really special that's in your heart. You know, is it that you bring a wonderful style perspective? Of course you do. Your own style perspective is great. I love my style perspective.
Me too.
I can't see a lot of colors, so I love wearing bright things. Raina has to tell me that's too bright all the time. I have a neon shirt that's like, I just see it as yellow. And she's like, you cannot wear that shirt certain places.
Sometimes you don't want to look like a cone if it's orange. You're like, nobody wants a cone orange shirt on screen. It's just a little too bright. Just saying. Otherwise, it's really fun to wear certain places.
But other places, when I feel like wearing the shirt, Raina's like, yeah, go ahead. You must feel like it for a reason.
Absolutely.
And people come up and go, that is the brightest shirt I've ever seen. And I just go, thank you. Thank you.
You cannot miss him.
I love that.
You can't lose him either. See him in a crowd, you can see him.
Yeah, there's something that you bring, whether it's that you're a bright person, whether that it's that you have a smile, even your heartache, even your difficulties coming in and showing that you're overcoming them and you had a hard day. It's inspiring.
It is.
And people notice. We notice so much more than we've ever noticed. We're very observant energies in our world, especially as intuition grows. So what you're bringing to the moment, what you can shine the most is the truth of who you are. And the truth of who you are is really beautiful. So find the beauty of you and find how to radiate it and ask those questions. What's preventing me from radiating my beauty? What's preventing me from showing up to this moment and being just me from the seventh plane? And would you guys like to know that it's possible to do so in your lives?
All right, Sanaya.
Next question. My blueprint changes after a while. How to get clearer on my life purpose and blueprint? Connecting to the source and higher self at all times? Question mark.
Yeah, I mean, it has a lot to do with connecting to yourself and that energy of the seventh plane all the time. Like we're supposed to change. We're supposed to
Evolve,
yep.
transform, grow.
We're supposed to move and solve things. And whether we see it in its entirety, it's always actually a movement forward to the next situation, to more creation. And ourselves, we don't realize something is good or bad. We just see it as creation. We see it as solution creation, solution creation, solution creation. And we're very good at it. And as we evolve it and define how we're using that, we gain awareness and we make little tiny adjustments.
Shifts.
You know, we make adjustments to what we feel comfortable wearing one particular day. We make adjustments about what particular person we want to call on the phone a little bit more from 1 minute to the next. These are all normal adjustments, not just normal, there's what we're supposed to do. But we're also supposed to be able to communicate and move forward. And again, because of that pressure of our world and wanting to solve everything all the time, and we get this feeling like, okay, there's only one way to be in every situation. There's only one version. We feel from other people that they'll put you in that place. It's true. Sometimes your parents will leave you at 8 years old. Sometimes your parents will leave you at 14 years old until you move some stuff in your cells or situations call for, and you're able to be seen as older. For me, even in my journey, like at 18 with my mom, there are still aspects of me having grown with my family. I turn to Raina all the time and I say, I wonder if my family realizes I'm not that same personality as when I was 8 years old in that way. Like they're always like, Josh is super competitive, super competitive. He will throw stuff and get mad if he loses. I'm like, yeah, when I was 12, 15, like as I grew and changed things, my competitiveness is now more playfulness. Like even if I am competitive, it's only to be playful or to accomplish something to combat another type of competitiveness in training to show that there's another way. Like you don't have to be angry to be competitive and have fun. You can do it with joy. You can do it. So there's different motivations and wanting to be seen differently. It all came back to the fact that I never really communicated that I changed. I left a lot to be assumed. Like you should know me. You've been around me. You watched me grow. They don't have access to all the same information. They don't have access to the experience of ourselves. We make an assumption that they're supposed to just know. And Raina and I still do this in our relationship, 15 years. And we'll still catch little things where from the start of our relationship we communicated and there's an assumption that it stayed the same for 15 years. We're very good at catching them. We're very good at going, oh, probably want to change that and allow it to be seen. But usually it's within our own selves that we have lack the ability to communicate that. So when we feel the pressure of like, how are they not seeing us change? We go take a look and we see, oh, because something in me is making it so I can't really communicate that I've changed very well.
Mhm.
My mom or dad really loved me when I was 8 years old, and I want to always feel that deep love that we had. And I'm afraid if I move it to 40 whatever or 50 whatever, that might change and lose that one particular thing. Well, we're designed to grow and change, but we can stop our communication of how we're seen with the people around us, from what we're communicating with the world, what we allow ourselves to put out there. So within that creation, as we stop that communication, we make it so difficult to move forward. So all that being said, when we make a plan, when we understand what to do with our life, we want to take into account that it can change, that we can always add to it, we can always increase things. But what does that mean, to increase things within your subconscious? You know, when you evolve from this moment to the next, can you maximize it? Can you say and communicate the truth of yourself in 1 minute and then be able to communicate it in another minute and know that the difference of from where we were, let's say when we started this conversation, to where we are now, are you able to communicate that with yourself? We can tie it all back to the topic that we're talking about. If you can communicate it with yourself, then the next step, belief work wise, is how do I communicate that with others? How do I, when we understand ourselves, and the reason this is such an important topic is because then when we go to the seventh plane to understand others, we don't have parts of ourselves, parts of lower vibrational things influencing the information.
Mhm.
We're able to just see it from unconditional love. When you see it from unconditional love, just unconditional love, it is beautiful to see what people have chosen in their life. You don't see somebody who made a mistake when they were 10 years old, 15 years old, made a mistake last week. You don't see the mistake. They call it a mistake.
Mhm.
You see perfection. You see a lifetime of pressures and ancestors and even other energetic times and places that come together and solve the pressure of the moment, and they did it in the most perfect way that they knew how. That was the only way that they could solve that pressure from the power of their own selves. And they found it. Did it cause things they didn't like? Yeah. Would they do it the exact same way again? Probably not. Sometimes, if it worked really well and they go, well, it worked, I'm just going to do it again, maybe. But if it caused lots of difficulties, sometimes they're like, nah, I wouldn't do that again. I learned a lot. I have things I say I've learned a lot with. No, I'm not going to do that again. I can take a look at those moments and go, man, I don't know who that person really was because I've changed so much. So if you're going to change your plan and you want to open the door, know that you're going to change. You're designed to open the door. I had this really wonderful person who told that to me. It was in the middle of a great difficulty, making changes in life, and things weren't working out. And relationship wise, Raina and I both came from a background where we had some very abusive relationships.
Mhm.
And when you're getting out of abusive relationships, things have gone on for a very long time. The person on the other side tends to get a little more difficult before things get easier because it's worked for a long time for them, right? That style has worked for a very long time. And when that happened, there was lots of questions about my mindset and lots of different things thrown my way. And in order to see my children, I went to see a person to show that my brain was normal. That was my whole goal. I had to go prove my brain was normal. And they had to go prove their brain was normal, which is not hard to do, by the way. You go in and you talk to people and they say, hey, your brain is normal. And we went in and sat down and we talked to, and the very first thing that I said was, I think they're looking for an answer to figure out what changed in the time of the relationship, and what changed is me. I don't want to be in that situation. I don't want to be in those pressures, and I don't want to be pretending a whole bunch of things that I'm not comfortable with inside my own cells. And the person looked at me and said, well, that's very normal. That's very normal. People are supposed to change. They're supposed to grow. They're supposed to move and do different things. Having the courage to speak about who you are and to talk about what the change is going on, that's not as normal.
No.
That's much more difficult. And in our world, you're going to find great success by finding the truth of your heart and your story and communicating it. To be a good instructor, not necessarily a theta healer instructor, but the word instructor, teacher in life, you just have to share. You have to share your experience and your perspective, and then be open to people taking it and learning, taking it and deciding what to do with that information and letting it go. So if you can share your story and share your downs as much as your ups about how you learn different things, and then lose that definition and know that there's situations, you become a very, very powerful person, because you're teaching other people how to become very, very powerful and true to their beauty.
It's true.
And that was another long answer. I'm good at those.
I know.
We have two more questions. The next one is, thank you, teacher. I still feel unhappy after what I did before. So now I have stopped making choices. What kind of way can I find my heart and true happiness as soon as possible?
It makes me sad that you lost your way and stopped. It
Making
does.
choices.
To make a mistake and then stop means that for a moment, the energy of something else and someone else
Had so much pressure on you that you felt the need to no longer be yourself.
so within our heart immediately comes the desire to
Hug you.
hug you and fix it
So
and
here's a
like,
virtual hug. First of all,
yeah, what is a mistake really? When we affect other people in a negative way, yeah, we don't want to affect people in a negative way. But as we grow and we learn and we've done certain things, you're still this beautiful creation energy. And the fact that something somewhere made it so that you were just turning over that creation, and you were handing it, or are handing it, to nothing. You're like, I don't want to create. I'm afraid to create. I might mess it up again. It shows me that we, to me, I just hear we, can show better how to overcome these things and how important you are. And it goes back to this will have an immediate impact. Like, I'll make sure today the people who are in our lives all hear from us, to know that we want them to be true to themselves and to move forward in everything, and to know how loved that they are. So we're going to give a download to everybody, if that's okay, that you guys can accept, and to know that you have support and unconditional love to build things.
and that you can feel it, that you can see it, that you can hear it, that you can know it in your heart, and that you can accept it not only from the outside yourself, but within yourself, from your connection through Creator. Is that okay?
And part of the reason it hits me very personally is it took me a long time to understand that you're as much as we want to go up and download from the seventh plane, this is how you solve the problem. We can give you guidance, and we can help reach you to the seventh plane. We can give you great theta healers, but the power to do those things is going to come as you develop that connection within yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And as you start to see the beauty that you have, even in a choice or what you might define as a mistake, there's still beauty there. There's still something to be learned. You know, there's a movie called Catch Me If You Can. I don't know if you've ever seen it. That's the United States title. And basically, it's about a young man who his parents are getting divorced. He freaks out, and he goes and starts writing checks from
Yes, with Leo DiCaprio.
yeah. And it's a true story. Obviously, it's Hollywoodized to make it very entertaining. But the true story is that that person did become this giant person who gave checks away, and the motivation was my parents got a divorce, and I'm going to get it all back, and I'm going to do this thing. And he did get arrested and almost died in a jail, and then it
Mhm.
spent a lot of time in the United States in jail. What's really cool and what's very interesting about this particular story is he's a very, very wealthy man. So 1 year into a sentence, the people that were chasing him from the United States came and asked him to work for him, just like they did in the movie. They said, "Hey, like I don't know how you did what you did, but come work for us because you have all this knowledge." And then after he worked for them and finished his moment, he was out of released from his time and worked with them. Then he got offered a job, and he actually uh, worked for all the different companies that needed security, all the different banks and all the different places. And so yeah, it was a mistake. And yeah, even in the story and in the movie, he'll tell you like I shouldn't have done it like that. But I did gain knowledge. And as he learns to do that knowledge, he learns to do things differently. You
And he
know?
gained perspective, and he understood how to go within himself and recognize things that he had within himself to be able to go forward and apply it to different aspects of life that could help not only one person but a government and other aspects of things that could help other people find, in this particular show,
Yeah.
find ways to help crime.
So he embraced the knowledge of his mistake, changed the way he was creating things, and then realized I can create differently.
Yes.
And then there was success. So embrace the reasons, embrace the understanding behind what you might define as a
A
choice or
decision.
a decision.
Mhm.
Embrace the good parts that you learned about yourself. You know, I learned many things from situations I've been told uh, from outside perspective, situations that looked like they were impossible to recover from in my journey. I've been told that from the moment I was very young, 7 years old, 10 years old, 15 years old. I don't know how you're going to get out of this situation. It doesn't look like you're just going to be that way for a very, very long time. I remember learning these different things and being told physically, I don't know what you're going to do. Your body's not going to respond. It's not going to do this. Your lungs aren't going to get better. And then going, well, there's a way. There has to be. The universe is full of things all the time that aren't supposed to go one way because of a number or because of something else. And then they do. And the way to find that is to move forward. Always to move forward, one step. Move forward with yourself. Move in a direction that you want to. And my son calls them baby steps. He called him that when he was 16, and he come up. He's what is he, 27 now?
Mhm.
He come up last weekend and he said, "I'm still doing baby steps, but I get it now. I get it." When he was 16, he was like, "You just take baby steps forward, baby steps," and he made a little song out of it. I'm just gonna take my baby steps. And we started working through some stuff that was very difficult, and we moved it. And as we moved it in that direction, he started to discover things, and we started to develop a relationship, and things opened up in a great way for us as a family to have the connection that we have with our grandkids now. You know, baby steps open doors, not just for you, but for the people around you. So take the baby steps. Take the little steps in yourself to know in your heart how loved you are, to know how important you are, to move in that direction. And don't be a stranger to reach out and ask. We get your messages. We don't always get a chance to respond, but that doesn't mean we don't send healing energy for you to use and have a chance to respond to in your life.
There's a couple more questions that came later, but I just want to do a time check. If you'd like to still answer a few more questions.
Oh, what does that text message say?
Which one?
The one that just came in.
Mm.
All right, we can do 2 more questions.
Next question is, I don't know what hinders me from attracting a committed partner when it was not how it was before. Can you enlighten me?
Raina's tapping my hand. I'm waiting to see if she wants to answer, and she's tapping my hand saying, "Go ahead." So you can see it. That's what just happened. We went up and scanned, and she was like, "You got this one."
Mhm.
So, mostly what we reach for when we're looking for the perfect partner, and what we're putting out to the universe is we have, again, a lot of very specific communications and understandings and possibilities. And our supercomputer knows what it's doing. You may have heard it's important to love yourself, and how important it is to love yourself to find that committed relationship. In this particular case, it looks like your supercomputer heard some of that information about loving yourself and has decided that the best way to really love yourself is to really isolate yourself.
Mhm.
So all you have to do is make a little belief work change that you can find and discover love for yourself without needing to just be by yourself, that you can expand it beyond. And we'll download that it's possible to do so. That means, of course, you still have to do the belief work about why it's easier that way, but we'll download that it's possible to do so. And don't worry, uh, it's also something that your cells kind of on a group conscious level tend to do
Mhm.
and be triggered with that kind of programming when you're really close to meeting your ideal soulmate. So there's an actual group conscious belief. This is like when we're really close to making that connection, we have to isolate and go into self-love and love ourselves before we can maximize it. So you do a little digging, make a couple changes. You don't have to do it that way, uh, but don't worry. The deep connections that you're asking for are coming quickly.
Last question. My job is art related. My new leader said my work is lack of sense. How can I improve my sense of beauty? Thank you.
Sense of beauty.
Sense of beauty. So it sounds like his or her boss is saying that her work is lack of sense.
Well, I think you have to decide what that definition of you is. You know, I think
Yes.
there's a big part of yourselves that um, are taking that guidance and wanting it to be defined in a certain way. And then there's a part of yourselves that are wanting to define it in your own way. So anytime that we bring up the word art and creation, you bring up a set of beliefs that is on a genetic level about self-expressionism and the ways that we connect to ourselves. So we get into that battle of finding ourselves as an artist, and we get into battling the definition of if I can get this approval or don't want this approval. It's very, for you, very integrated to an ancestral thing about how to break free as an artist into your self-discovery. So your supercomputer is actually trying to accommodate your self-discovery, which means that the energy behind what you're doing is saying, push me and kind of
To make sense.
make me into wanting to break free and discover myself. So, I mean, you could paint or design or whatever it is that you do artistically for this individual, and the energy behind what you're doing is not going to allow it to be received any other way. So you have to see what's going to happen if you do let it be received another way and you get their approval. So go forward and see what happens to you as an artist if you get their approval. Go forward and remember the time that you got it and what happened next, and then what happened next. And I think what you'll discover is you'll discover some of the losing of being an artist that would happen, and what you want to shift about that in your future to maintain that artistic nature that is you.
That's a good question.
Thank you, Josh and Raena. We got to all of the questions, and I know we went over time, so I really appreciate it. And I also want to thank you for encouraging all of us to deepen our sense of self-discovery through ideas like self-examination, finding the beauty of us from the seventh plane, communicating with ourselves and others, and choosing what makes us happy or joyful. I also want to recognize Akemi for translating to Japanese and Hui for translating to Chinese. Thank you both. And finally, I'd like to share about our upcoming instructor classes in the Philippines. We will be hosting Basic, Advanced, Dig Deeper, and Creator New classes from October 12th to 24 here in Manila, Philippines. We have a saying here in the Philippines that it's more fun in the Philippines. So come join us and let's have fun becoming Theta Healing instructors with Josh and Raena Stibal. You'll find details on the screen. And in a moment, we're going to take a picture with everybody. Mary, can we go ahead and go back to the view? Thank you. So can we turn our cameras on and everybody give us a big smile? Keep smiling. 2 more pages. Perfect. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for joining in, and we'll see you next month for another webinar. Lots of love.